Hello, welcome to part number 8 in my Sequential Growth Series. I am going to talk about the 7th point of view. So welcome. Thanks for checking out my videos. If you're new, this is, well into this kind of little mini series that I've made. I would highly suggest watching the other ones. You can totally watch this one right here and get something out of it, but I think it fits into like a sequential flow. And so all other parts are important to see beforehand to understand what it is that we're talking about. So I really would, if you've got free time right now, I would say invest it in watching the first part before watching here. Which is linked in the description below, so you can hop right over there and spend the time watching the intro and watching, the points of view as they build. But for those of us who have been here, thanks so much if you're returning and you're interested in this. I love that some people are seeing it and getting some likes, so it's nice to have feedback on the content as well, to know that other people out there get something from it, So today, like I said, we're going to talk about the 7th point of view, which is what I'm calling, well, of course, this is my own thing, so I've made the whole thing, of course, what I'm calling it, the geometric point of view. And the more that I have created this sort of outline of how the flow would look, the more I realize that it's something I'm guided towards understanding. Of course, it's something, lots of people, use that term download. And I'm not going to get into the highs and the lows about that. But for myself, this is information that I feel I comb through and learn more about it as I go through it, and that I'm being led to understand things more deeply. I believe it's through source connection, through the God source creator. I believe that organic mathematics, arithmetic, all the wonderful different displays that we have out there, up through geometry and are given to us by God. I really think that the highest creator, the creator of all, the before and after, is has the mastery of all of this, has designed all of this. And so I find it's a great service to the collective, to the whole here, to God, and to humanity, that I offer these things through, and that I feel they come from and they are inspired by. And so thanks for listening and unpacking things with me. And I really find the geometric view for the 7 to highlight and to fit so nicely with 7 as a mastery number. And if you're familiar with numerology at all, that's one of the most common kind of placeholders for 7, is the researcher, the learner, the academic, the mastery of things. 7 is also a very powerful number, and it's highlighted across cultures and traditions. And I think for this reasons that we'll talk about having the geometric flow, what's the word? Enacted. It's not the word. I'm trying to. Instigated. That's not the word either. Empowered. Enacted. Getting going. Like embodied at this. The word is like slipping my mind. Activated. It's activated at the 7th point of view. So let's do this real quick. I should have opened my notes here, but I didn't. I'll go back to my. Oh, this isn't the crappy one that I usually. This is the second to the crappy one. Well, try to keep it. There it is, synonymous with what we've been looking at each episode. Okay. Just for a recap, and for anybody who is new and who's going to jump into other things later, we've already gone through 1, the linear, 2, which I call either staircase or sequential model. 3 is the spiral or the helix. 4 is the circular or cycles. 5 in the 5th stage, 5th point of view, is the lemniscatic point of view, the figure 8, the infinity symbol. The 6th point of view, which was the previous episode, was the toroidal, and now we have this as the geometric. And see how sort of inside there I've got the hexagram, but it's also meant to showcase like the tetrahedron and the dodecahedron. I'm not as creative and artistic as I love to be. I love to do those kind of things. I'm not very good at them. So yeah, that's my crappy doodles. And then, oh yeah, I didn't really talk about 8 and 9, but we're going to get there anyways. But yeah, 8 is sort of like where all the dots connect. So see, if you look at my dot figures, the lines that would connect all of these and the space between it all of the things that it embodies and holds, and its karmatic system functionalities, what it is 8. And then 9 is like the outermost boundaries. It is also seals with number 1, and it also has to do with sort of like that central point, the 0 point within, which I talked about a bit in the toroidal, we talked about in the lemniscat. I also showcased how the center middle point in the toroidal lemniscat is the center point that the circle goes around for number 4. It's the truth. It's the center that we figure out finally we're circling around. It's also what does the twist for 3 and creates the helix in itself. The center point, the circle, is not visible in the same manner in stages 1 and 2. Because they're so close to they're the point. They're there. They're on the line, and so like it's you in the forest. You cannot see the path and the trees when you're down in the forest, and 1 and 2 are very much part of this point of view. And as they must be, because they hold the center. And if they weren't stable and focused on what they are, everything else cannot build off of it. It's just like if the parents aren't stable in the family, what does the child come in and build off of? There will be no center neutrality. There's no good for everybody middle point, God, creator, source in the center, faith, love, happening to fuel in there. And hence how negative systems erupt, or contract rather, and invert. But that's a talk for later time. Or if you're interested in that, I've had a whole 6-level series on systems, and you can find that on my old channel, where I talk a lot about that. But anyways, we're here for the 7th point of view, so let me just get down into that. So the geometric view showcases and understands, like I had mentioned before, 7 is mastery. It has to do with research and knowledge, and the accumulation of knowledge, but not just information knowledge. Like it's not just academia, book knowledge. It's experiential knowledge, it's theoretical knowledge, it's mind, body, and spirit, right? Internal, external, and that spiritual everywhere. We don't have a tangible name for it. I have yet to come up with one. Other people might. It's etheric, but that has too many sandbags on it, kind of, for new agey crap for me to use that ether. It is ether, but when we say etheric, it gets all into astral and into new agey stuff that I just, I know it has a bearing of truth underneath there. There's substance that is tagged to truth, but it's a double lie sandwich with the truth and sandwiched in between. And to me, I can't unpack all of that with every video, with everyone I speak to, and saying that. So I could just call it the spirit layer, the flow, and the exchange, the observation, the witnessing, and the capacity to hold, like the balancing of the books, kind of between an external system and an internally focused system. So the information, the qualia of mastery, is really a mind, body, and spirit accumulation that happens with level 7. And It's built off the back of all the numbers before it. It's built through all of these different modalities and layers. And so it understands, this is why I love to have it as the geometric point of view. It understands the whole process. Like, people are probably familiar with this, and if you're not, you can go and look into it after. It's really cool to understand and look at the growth of life and of metaphysics, and to see the circle into the flower of life, to talk about the seed of life, to understand that even as a single cell, the way mitosis splits, the way you grew into a human being, actually this follows that exponential reproduction, right? Is what that flower of life, the circles that everybody, I have one here my father got me, a light catcher, you know. And it models the circles. I mean, it's not just a pretty shape. It is beautiful. As all God's creations are. But it's not just an art thing, you know. Math, yeah, can help you be a better artist, help you draw better. Perspective and all of that, really having an understanding of that isn't just about physics or trigonometry or anything like that, you know. It's basic. It's expressed through organic intelligence. It's a template, you know. It's for everyone. And so understanding how that is birthed out of the toroidal, and understanding how the torus creates through its energetic work formations and builds out of, you know, you can see the sacred geometry, the platonic solids, and you can see how they get built out of the shape, you know, out of circles. And that, you know, this is all about seven. This is the seventh point of view, understanding the building blocks and how they come together, you know, and also understanding, like Legos, the building blocks of life and how those things come together, and knowing that it's only a better perspective that has happened to the building blocks, to the geometric shapes, to the form. Within the form still holds every other point of view. You can dive down in there and get back to the toroidal energetic system. You can dive into the toroidal energetic system and view individual lemniscatic flow happening between this individual systems within. Lower and lower levels of consciousness that you can embody and see and understand the interactions that are happening. And then they become cyclic. They become obvious. You know, this is what I love about sequential flow, because you can go ascend and descend and almost like zooming in and out. You know, I call it the lens of the observer, and I talk about this sort of dial, a point of view, being able to see macro down to micro, down to nano, you know, in every stage in between when we allow ourselves to. So the geometric view with the 7th point of view starts to bring in all of this stuff, starts to bring in the multidimensionality of the whole. And hence the reason that 7 is such a powerful number, and it's a powerful number of repetition. It's used a lot in our world out there, 7 days in the week and things like that. Those all really, I believe, are signatures of sequential growth. It holds the state, it holds physicality, and creates a dimensionality for the happenings to be happening on and in. And the building up, I'll just talk just a second here about, you know, where we're going. This 7 is the final stage of creation. which I think is another reason that we see it highlighted in a couple of different ways, light and shadow ways out there with different groups and different systems, manifestation out there. Because once we have 7, everything's kind of done. Everything's not really done because we have to experience the happenings, and then we get into 8. And after we've been experiencing the happenings and had service, retribution, come back and had inner and external exchanges between the formation, what the service is, and how it deals with its own service, then we have 8, the sort of cyclitic. And this is why 8 is in itself is the infinity symbol, right? And we see 8, the number 8, always the figure 8. People might say, oh, the lemniscat should be number 8. But to me, this sequential growth here, we're not really talking about numeric values. I'm going to get into numeric values after, and I will certainly bring in the lemniscat with 8 again, and we'll talk again about retribution and karma and what infinity, eternity is, the passing back and forth and the ebb and flow, because they are very much part of stage and phase 8. When we talk about the 8th perspective, you have to bring in the external. You have to really be able to take an eagle's eye view, the third-party view, and see the full happenings of the external expression, how the thing works its service out with others, and how it processes its own internal service and balances external service with internal service. And how it does that really creates the balancing of the books, like I like to say, and that's how 8 is displayed. How others see you is really what 8 starts to talk about. Or how you see yourself, how others would see you. You know, this sort of, let me step out of myself and see myself how others might see me. Actions and that sort of frame of mind and what that all embodies, you know. And it has nothing to do with creating anymore, because everything that's been created is to be observed and witnessed and assessed at point of 8. So 7 is really the last step where any sort of fine-tuned adjustments get made, tailor fittings get altered, just the final sort of things. Yeah, we have final, we also have final things in 9 that sort of get sealed and sent, but that's more like the sealing of the envelope and putting a stamp on the letter, whereas 1 through 7 is the entire idea of making the letter and having a letter to write to somebody and having all the things that you needed to put in there, making sure that it's edited correctly, making sure your handwriting looks nice and all that kind of stuff, and dotting the T's and crossing the I's. Finally writing your signature on the letter, you know, becomes that number 7. That's the final physical process of anything needing to be changed. Yeah, that you still need to send it. The person needs to receive it. You need to put it in that envelope and put a stamp on it and give it to the mailman. There's other things that need to happen. But the subject of the whole, right, if we were talking like in sentence and grammatical, we have to have a subject and a verb, right? The subject of the whole is done with stage 7. And you really get to see the form of what it is. And it's fully taken shape. You know, just like with 7 is the accumulation of the knowledge. It's really about how all of the points come together. And it's already been tested. It's already been through, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So, yeah. 7 is a really fun, amazing stage. And every stage is almost infinite in itself if we are really working to co-create in whatever we're making, and we haven't really made it completely a part of us. If we can really step in and out of whatever the project, the creation, the thing is. Every stage is really eternal. It can go on forever, and it does go on forever because they're always talking and exchanging between each other, really. But if you look at 7, you can always learn forever, and if you love to learn and if you have a reason for wanting to keep learning, then it of course will go on forever. But the architecture, the setup of it will always be firm. Everything's already been made. It's just the design kind of it. The whole building is there, but it's you changing the paint color or the bedding or whatever is really what comes in with 7. And of course, you learn about upkeep, you learn about hygienic things, you learn about things that have to be switched out or changed out at certain couple of years or whatever, the longevity of a thing. All of those things come, the organization and the implementation, all those kind of things come into play with 7 as well. So, and the kind of other thing is that we see this with all the shapes fit inside of each other. They grow out of each other and they can condense back into each other. And, that's ever flowing and ever changing. And it's like, it shows perfectly how interaction can happen, like at any phase, any time, in different angles, in different ways. And that it's acceptable. It's not that every potential happens all the time, but that it can and could, So it's lots of different ways to look at the thing when we get to position number 7, point of view 7. But the whole of the flow is really taken a new step because it's formulated and it's manifested at this time into its own kind of shape. So, that's stage 7. I guess I'll leave it there within a good range of time that I wanted to hopefully keep this little series too. Thanks for listening. If you haven't seen any of the previous ones, you could definitely watch those if you're interested. And hopefully I'll be back within a couple of days to do point of view number 8. And then after I do talk about how energy flows through this initial sequential growth, then I'm going to jump into numeric values and talk about the quality of each number and how through the flow each number counts. And so we'll go back through the linear model and look at how the numbers move in a linear fashion, and then we'll talk about what the numbers look like in a sequential staircase version and how they grow through the spiral and all of that. And when we see how the flow, the numeric numbers move through the circuitry, you get a really tangible sense of how you can implement these things for so many different ways in your own life. And also how when you witness different systems or different anything taking place out in the world, you can see the flow happening. You can see where it is, numerically, and where it helps with what's to come, what's been, and creating harmonies in moving through things. So it's really, really beneficial. I really do find it beneficial. So I hope you'll tune in. I hope you'll check out more videos. Thanks so much for giving me your time here today. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your contribution to our collective. We would not be the same without you. Thanks so much for witnessing mine, and I'll see you next time.